Hello, welcome to the Trews. I'm your host, Russell Brand. Subscribe to the Trews here. Today, the Trews is brought to you by kindness. Just be kind to someone today. You don't know them or anything. Just go, oh, you look nice, or maybe give them something. Today on the Trews, we're looking at Nigel Farage on Sean Hannity, because Farage has been cozying up to the News International and vice versa. He's had a meeting with Murdoch. So what does this mean about Nigel Farage? What does it mean about the right wing's move into new territories? Let's have a look at Hannity and Farage together at last.
Welcome back to Hannity. Tonight, ISIS continues its rampage all across the Middle East, and last week President Obama revealed he currently has no plan to counter this terrorist organization. Here with reaction, UK Independence Party leader Nigel Farage is with us.
Nigel Farage is with us. You'd think the bare minimum that Sean Hannity could do research-wise is find out the name of the person that's coming on this programme. See how Nigel Farage copes with that.
Nigel Farage is with us. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you.
Doesn't have the confidence to say something there. I mean, it's always a tough one, isn't it, if someone gets your name wrong? Do you sort of risk sounding a bit pernickety and fussy? Oh, actually, it's Farage. Or do you just think, roll with it, and then us lot, the people watching, think you're a bit weak. You can't be a leader. You don't stand up to fascists.
Some predict you may be the next prime minister. Is that true?
Well, we're making progress.
Yeah.
We've had a two-party system for the last 100 years, Labour v Tory. We won the European elections earlier this year. There's a little revolution cooking in British politics.
Well, Labour's considered left. What do you think of Cameron, who's considered more conservative?
They're all social democrats. There isn't much to choose. You frankly can't put a cigarette paper between them on most big issues.
Oh, no. Nigel Farage is saying things I basically agree with. Like, firstly, I agreed with what he said about you can only get a cigarette paper between, democratic parties.
And the big problem we've got as a country is that 75% of our laws are now made in Brussels by the European Union.
Which is nuts.
Which is unbelievable. I want to take that back. I want to be friendly with France and Germany, trade with them, but make our own laws.
In a way, I suppose, I also agree with that, because I don't agree with big federal governments. I agree with small collectivised communities. Well, that's what I would think would be in advance. So far I'm agreeing with Nigel Farage, but he hasn't said anything about immigration yet. So
what did you think about what Cameron has ordered, the immigration crackdown and the passport?
There you go. I think we're about to find more than cigarette papers worth of distance. I think there's going to be a vast tobacco field opening up between me and Farage. I mean, there is nothing wrong with sort of saying that, politics has become sanitised and anodyne and meaningless. I say stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with saying you don't want great federal organisations like the IMF, World Trade Organisation, the UN, NATO, impotent organisations that seem to act primarily for corporations, having yet more power at the expense of the ordinary population of nations and communities at large. But why does it always sort of tend towards these oddly right-wing and like prejudicial and judgmental kind of ideologies? Why has it always got to be, also, we don't really like bloody immigrants? Why can't it be a bit more, right, all of us are going to bind together and stand up against our common enemy, which is people that have currently got power, not other powerless groups?
He went on to say that passports are not an automatic right. You agree with him on this?
Well, he's following my lead. A few weeks ago, don't forget, we've now got somewhere between 500 and 1,500 British UK passport holders who are fighting in the ranks of ISIS. I mean, it's unbelievable.
I thought it was 600. That's
whatever.
Well, whatever. I like Nigel Farage's relaxed attitude about facts. Well, whatever. It's only ISIS, 500. I thought it was 500, yeah, whatever. And also I thought it was IKEA. Either way.
It's too many.
Well, we have too many Americans, too, doing the same thing.
Yeah, and it's coming from all over. And the Prime Minister's first position was that he said he wants to stop them returning to the United Kingdom, but he's going to bang straight into the European Convention on Human Rights, who'll tell him we cannot render people stateless. But I don't want them back in my country.
My country? Faragio, the worry is, of course, people like that sort of rhetoric. What I don't like is their willingness to continue to mine the seam of the accepted argument. I don't want them coming in the country. I don't like them going out the country. I'd like them in a paddock. I'd like them to be in a tube. I'd like to be fired up in space out of a didgeridoo. Like, no, mate, what's causing this problem? What is causing this problem? What I liked, Scottish comedian Frankie Boyle done a joke the other day saying trying to solve the problem of the Islamic State by bombing it is like trying to solve the problem of a wasp's nest by hitting it with a stick. I think that's obviously it's a glib comedic take, but it does point to the fact that with our military measures and with our aggressive stance, we are creating the conditions in which terrorism thrives. A truly radical party, a truly revolutionary political leader. I'm not suggesting that I am that person by saying the thing that I'm about to say that they would say. Stop creating these bloody conditions. Stop winding everybody up, for God's sake. I mean, of course, now there's a situation that has to be dealt with, but one thing we should eliminate from our potential solutions is being provocative and militant.
Anjem Chowdhury was on my show last week. It was a little loud, but I was trying to get him he says he's on Team Al-Qaeda. Apparently supported the convert or die philosophy of ISIS, trying to be clever and not responding. But we did finally get information out of him. Coming to a place near you, and he said Sharia will be implemented in the whole world one day, and he calls it liberation, but they will destroy the infidels. Very revealing in as much as that is what radical Islamists want.
Oh, yes. I mean, they mean it. They're not playing around.
It's only one bloke. Don't get some one radical Islamist on your TV programme and then say that he speaks for all Islam. That's one person coming on saying that they want Sharia law. This was a very interesting article that we looked at by someone called Aaron Kanani. Check it out. It says that the number of people convicted of terrorism-related crimes in Britain more than doubled between 2003, when the Iraq War began, and 2006, before halving again before 2009. The perpetrators had not changed their interpretation of religion during this time. What changed was their exposure to news of the carnage in Iraq, with its death toll in the hundreds of thousands. Of course, those kind of conditions, that kind of global climate is going to radicalise people. People aren't radicalised by schools. People aren't radicalised by sort of hook-handed clerics and lunatics. We contribute to this radicalisation by making people desperate.
We've actually had within the British establishment, as high up as the Archbishop of Canterbury, who runs our established church just 5 years ago, an acceptance that maybe we should give in. Maybe we should allow Sharia law to exist in some British cities. Now, thank goodness that Archbishop has gone.
Look, what we've all got to do is we've all got to have a responsibility to arm ourselves with proper information and proper knowledge and not let clowns like this pair give us data. I like Nigel Farage's blokey persona. I find it, whoopee, he seems like a normal guy, fantastic. But that's not the reality. The idea that UKIP will be any different from Conservatives or any of the other neoliberal democratic parties is ridiculous. They're not some kind of party of the people. They're supported by one multi-millionaire. One multi-millionaire supports UKIP. They're not the party of the people, they're the party of a person, and it's a rich person.
But actually, a lot of this is our own fault.
A lot of it's our own fault. I mean, think about it. We do keep bombing their countries and putting them in prison without trial. I mean, I was thinking about Abu Ghraib, but a lot of the torture methods that are deployed there are comparable to the very things we're complaining about.
We have been too weak. My country, is a Judeo-Christian country.
Look at France.
Well, the French have got an even bigger problem than we've got.
Much bigger.
For a start, they're French. That can't be easy. The smell of garlic, the hooped shirts, the bicycling everywhere.
We've got to actually start standing up for our values. And one of the other things that's been happening in Britain...
the Australian Prime Minister?
Well, they've been very, very firm about this.
Very firm.
Very firm about this.
I think his description of politics is the same way he described buttocks. Oh, those are very firm. No, I like those. Let me feel yours, Sean. Oh, you've got a very firm, tight pair of lovely, ripe, racist buttocks. Look at that. There's no way an immigrant would get in there. An immigrant would have to roll itself up. It needs to be like a mouse with those mouse skeletons where their skulls can collapse in to even burrow. Well, thanks, Nigel. Let me feel your buttocks. Oh, no, they're firm, too. Oh, they're so purred.
You accept our way, our values, or leave.
Well, that's right. And that's what we've got to start doing, and America's got to start doing it.
Hello. Accept our values or our ways, or leave. Like, whose values? Do you like... Well, this is England here. I'm in the middle of it. There's all sorts of different people. there's all sorts of different people with all sorts of different values. The value system that he's talking about is not some shared social values that we've all got as a bunch of guys together. It's the social and economic values of the people that govern, for whom it's necessary to have conflict, disdain and hatred between ordinary people of all religions and persuasions, so that they can just carry on with their murky nonsense.
What we must actually, our primary responsibility is to make sure it doesn't happen inside our countries. And, you know, schools, that's where you've got to be watching.
We better learn.
Schools are the real problem.
A lot of the ideas that Farage and Hannity are talking about are reminiscent of Boris Johnson, Mayor of London's ludicrous comments that Muslim children should be taken away from their parents before they get radicalised, like sort of little Mowglis. In this brilliant article by Aaron Kundani, he goes, the logic of Johnson's proposal is in essence reminiscent of the practice of saving native Australian children by separating them from their parents and creating what came to be known as the stolen generation. Tens of thousands of children who were needlessly placed in institutions in a bid to culturally assimilate them to white Australia. This radicalisation that they're spending time and effort and making us concerned about, it ain't as worthy of consideration as ideas of simple compassion and listening, inclusion and communication, because they're already investigating those kind of ideas. Since the 7/7 terrorist attacks, an elaborate system of surveillance has been created that draws social workers, teachers and youth workers into spying on Muslim children for supposed signs of radicalisation. One police officer involved in the programme told me, says the writer, that children as young as 4 could be radicalising and that nursery school teachers should therefore report children who draw pictures of bombs on their notebooks. Oh my God, I'm lucky they weren't doing that when I was at school. I was drawing all sorts of weird stuff, not to mention those photographs I had of one of my mum's friends, and she was wearing a peach coloured bra and I drew nipples on the top of it so it looked like she was naked and I could look at her boobs. God knows what they'd have made of that at the bureau.
The level of people in schools and in prisons too, and in all these public institutions where people are radicalised, and we can do something about that.
Schools and prisons aren't centres of radicalisation. What creates radicalisation is an international climate of conflict and war and a national climate of suspicion and prejudice. This is interesting. The official narrative leaves out the role of government in fostering political contexts in which terrorism becomes more likely. Religion may provide the semantic register within which some terrorists articulate their propaganda, but it's politics that is the underlying cause. Do you see that? That's an important idea that Nigel Farage and Hannity like to sort of say, oh, well, you know, even if there were no wars in the Middle East and there was no prejudice towards minorities at home, schools would be cooking up some crazy, why don't we try a bit of terror? That's not happening. It's just a result of social conditions. And if you address those social conditions, the problem will alleviate. So it's not like that I'm like a wet liberal guy that just wants to, hey, let's hold hands, although a bit of holding hands would be nice. It's just that this will work better. It's a better idea. Their ideas are the ideas that everyone else has got. Farage saying you can't get a cigarette paper between, you know, Miliband and Cameron, fair point, but you can't get a lot between them and him. All he's saying is let's amp up the shit they're already doing.
All right, Nigel, I'm going to follow your career very closely.
I'm going to follow your career very closely. I'm going to be following you back to the dressing room, and I'm going to be looking at those firm policies of yours, and I'm going to part those policies and see what's between them.
Appreciate it. We need Winston Churchills coming out of your country. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that was very enjoyable for a couple of men that I'd like to go out on a limb and say are probably homophobic. They seem to be having a gay all time there on the Hannity show. Let's remember that today's show was brought to you by the concept of being nice to people. Comment on the Trews and send us examples of nice things you've done as a result of watching this. Then instead of us worrying about whether there's radicalisation in schools, let's just do radical things everywhere, going around being nice. I'll think of something to do. But I might do the super advanced version of nice things where I don't even tell anyone. That's how into this I am. That was some Trews. I'm Russell Brand. Subscribe here. Subscribe here.
Is a tool that is abused to fool you and to leave you scared and confused. Trews is like the news. If the news was true, I want some Trews. Let's have some Trews.